This Hangout on Air is live. I'm Joe. There's Doug and there's Lisa, and we're going to have our usual Monday meeting starting a few minutes late. We're hoping we'll have a special guest calling in from Oman, which I had to look up is like kind of down at the end of that big peninsula where Saudi Arabia is. But if not, because I wasn't able to invite her, then we'll have her another time. It sounded really interesting. She was going to talk to us about women in engineering in Oman, which sounds interesting. Just yesterday, on a not totally related note, some guy I met in a group MOOC at edX, which I immediately dropped out of as soon as I got started, like with all MOOCs I've ever tried. He got in touch with me 12 weeks later or something over Skype, and he's like, "Oh, hey, I'm in Syria." I'm like, "Cool, let's talk to each other. That sounds exciting." But Syria is actually a really depressing place to be right now, so it wasn't that fun. I mean, he's a really nice guy, so I feel bad that he's stuck in a hellhole. Anyway, that's my news. Anyone else have an update while I quickly poke around and look for Charlotte one more time?
I don't have much of an update. I'm just trying to finish up another book, just proof of concept to go through the process of publishing. So I've been kind of messing around with that a bit, trying to just get those final pieces in place so I can finish the process. So not related to peeragogy per se, but it might be something useful for us down the line.
Yeah, well, now you're a self-publishing peer of Charlotte in with stars and stripes and bells and stuff on, so that's cool.
Not so much yet, because there's a couple things that I want to do as far as before I really feel like I'm at that point, but I haven't set up my own publishing company or anything like that yet, so that'll be next steps. This is just to get the first time through the process, get the ball rolling. So anyway, so eventually maybe I'll be there.
Yeah, gotta start someplace. That sounds good. We're all getting a taste for it now with the handbook. Doug, how about you?
I'm sort of wrestling with how to put together the web presence, the platform, all of the ingredients and collateral, and the channel and marketing strategy for the launch of the Values Manifesto, and really trying to think about it, based on the perspective that I carry into everything, and there's a huge amount of work in setting up and generating the collateral and the messaging in different mediums and different formats and different lengths and different pieces. And one of the dimensions of it that's really interesting when you drill down into the execution reality of it is, in a social media 3.0 enabled world, authenticity of relationship and connection is the key. And one of the things that we've taken on in developing the picture for the Values Manifesto is, what is the ecosystem within which we are part? And we really focus on sort of the transformation meme, and there's transformation on an individual basis, and then there's transformational on an enterprise basis or organizational basis. And those are for us, those are two ends of the same telescope. And so our particular, to hark back to a quaint 20th century marketing thing, our unique selling proposition, distinguishing feature from the rest of the world in the, quote, transformation business, is that we're human being, experiential and emotionally centered, meaning our primary offering and focus and attention is on the imbuing with or instantiation of significant emotional experience into the mix. by whatever means, in whatever form, that is doable. And generating a significant emotional experience for a participant on a focusing on individual transformation context, at least in business and corporate context, is a development, education training agenda. And most of those kinds of, products and offerings are anything but significant emotional experiences. They're all information or skill set or training directed, very 20th century and very industrial 2.0 world. Most of the organization/enterprise transformation things are productivity oriented, efficiency oriented, performance and metrics, stat and analytic oriented. It's just about everything except the human being's emotional experience in the center of all that doing. So one of the things that we're hoping to do is define the ecosystem within which our offering belongs, which is transformation. And that means we need to sort of gather all of the players that are in that space, both individual transformation end of the telescope and at the organizational end of the telescope, and come up with some kind of an organizational matrix or schema to contextualize them. And some of them, we sort of touched on this the last meetup, some of them are pure technology or technology-mediated offers, software and programs and tools and the like. And some of them are more human being-centered and human experience-centered. In contextualizing the marketplace and the ecosystem within which we belong, our goal is we're augmentative in terms of our particular strategy, which is to catalyze chaos. We actually are enterprise corporate anarchists in a certain regard, because what we're doing is using the values meme as a way of getting the nose of the camel in the enterprise tent, and in the course of sparking that conversation and inviting and soliciting participation of everybody in the organization from lowest to highest, that we actually effectively catalyze chaos, give people their voices, give people an opportunity to speak up, and then deal with what comes at you, which most large organizations and corporations never do. And in the context of framing up the market, we need to sort of provide shelf space for everybody else. We need to frame and reference everybody else's offerings, both as they express their value offer and equation, but also through our lens, how we see them in the scheme of our offering. And the ecosystem model says that once we catalyze the change, all of those people have a seat at the table for helping to sort out the chaos we hope to generate in service to organizational transformation, right? So on a practical mechanics, nuts and bolts level, what does that mean? So that means we need to gather, their logos, we need to gather their collateral and statement of who they are. We need to write our own editorial framing of that through our lens and perspective. And we need to set all of this stuff up in a web presence that experientially is one or two click easy to navigate through and to reference and dig into. No small task. And we've got to have all the web functionality and backend for archiving the shared files and for linking to their sites, and it becomes technology, programming, web development, ecosystem setup. And one of my criteria, mission critical requirements, was that it not require any of us become programmers in order to execute this, because there's so many tools out there now and so many platforms and offerings that really make it drag and drop easy, supposedly. So what I see is that we can get to 85%, and that's with us as a pretty sophisticated user group in terms of understanding, like when we hover over a graphic of spiral dynamics, we want it to pop open a screen with a little bit of text and a link and whatever. As users, we get what we want, and we're finding lots of resources for the code and whatever. But there is a missing reference piece in the puzzle, which is the translators, the guides, the facilitators that can help us bridge to execution on a commoditized level. And it's sort of a piece of the glue of the open source 3.0 vision out there, that I think there are lots of folks out there that would be, could be, should be available, that have time and resource to offer and contribute, but where to find them and how to easily connect with them. And there are sites for bidding projects. I get that, and I can go out to Bangalore, Romania, and I can get commoditized labor at third world prices. And there's all sorts of stuff, but none of it is like community, collective, commons, open source, Wikipedia easy in its framing and setup, if that makes sense. And I think the Peeragogy vision and model speaks to that. So I'm done.
I think what you're saying certainly speaks to a couple of things. So let me real quick, just to say my catch-up, a serious one, is that we did have a Planet Math board meeting over the weekend. I put a link in the chat to this mathoverflow.org/portfolio. So this is a group. They're another not-for-profit, and they're building a little portfolio. We'd love to join their portfolio, as they call it, as a partner project. We'd love to join your thing as a partner project too, Doug. I'm sure. We being, the Peeragogy Project as a project. But I think that this becoming a hub and coordinating with the spokes, or becoming a spoke inside of someone else's hub, is certainly a pattern. Hub and spoke pattern. Maybe we should write that up for our revised pattern catalog. So that was the brief update. And as to could the Peeragogy Accelerator, for example, at some point offer you that as a kind of service, a quid pro quo? You let us become a spoke into your hub thing, and we will help you be the facilitators you're looking for, or help you find them. Maybe that could be on the negotiating table. Certainly to think about what that would mean, I guess. So yeah, I wanted to keep it brief. Just if you want to say a little bit more about what kinds of things are you looking for? I mean, maybe not just because it's going to be a process, right? You might need to find someone who would find someone who would do X. So I guess maybe it would be best to start at the end. You said about commoditizing, but what do you want to? You want to pay someone to do something, or you want someone to pay you? I'm a little less clear. What's the end?
I guess it's resource help. It's contextualized resource help. I know one of these days I'm going to be reaching out to Charlotte because we have a book called The Values Manifesto that is the book expression of that, with all of the extensions and drill downs and whatever. And so we're working on the content of that. We're working on that narrative and story and work. And at some point I'm going to need to cross the Lisa Snow Bridge and figure, okay, how do we package this? How do we publish this? How do we get this out and disseminate it? And there is lots of expertise, that Charlotte has her finger on, running the communities that she runs. But is the the channel to that expertise set up? Does it exist? Or do these communities somehow have a kind of opacity built into them, baked into the way they're structured, so that you aggregate commonalities of interest and attention by members who sign up and register and join, but what's the easiest way to make transparent members as resource, in what context, for what terms, right? For what kinds of help, and what kind of engagements and projects, right? And there's a missing interface. It's like a mimetic switchboard, or a mimetic what's the machine Howard's building out in California, where you put in the query, and it's not information that comes back. It's here's the array of resources, and here are the people in this organization that speak to that.
So well, here's yes, we were just mentioning you, Charlotte, but we were saying only really good things about you. So welcome.
I don't deserve it.
Well,
I invoked you. I invoked you as the goddess of things publishing.
I do have a T-shirt, a new T-shirt.
WMBR.
Yeah, my friend DJs at the MIT station WMBR.
Cool. Yeah, broadcast out of a little closet.
Basement or something. Yeah. Harvard's out of a basement too.
Yeah. So we just had a question. We were supposed to have a special guest, but I couldn't find her. That's actually a case study in what Doug was just talking about. So
yes, it is.
See if you can find our special guest. And bring
well,
her.
I actually was engaging with her on Facebook,
Uh-huh.
and the last I heard was having the willies about her English presentation skills. So I think we may have to book her for when she can prepare her
Okay.
presentation. But I thought it was a great topic.
Yeah.
She was very.
It might help. She might feel more confident if she could go through it once, just with you, and you. Could
That's what I told her. I said, we could just make it really informal and.
Maybe better yet with Karen, who's an expert on this. If we could.
She's an expert.
I'd love to do that.
That would
she's
be.
much. Yeah. Let's set that up with her, and then because I think she's just. It's a cool story,
Mm-hmm.
The way that women are included there, and yet they support each other.
Wow.
As women, in engineering.
Yeah. Well, much like they do in Boston, apparently, with this WCC thing I found. So that's cool.
Oh yeah. Right.
And in Oxford, they just had Ada Lovelace's 200th birthday anniversary. She didn't make it past 36, but had she made it to 200, it would have been quite a party.
She wasn't doing radiation like Marie Curie, was she?
No, she invented computing before it was even a thing. She was the one before touring and all that. So.
Speaking of education, my daughter did in 5th grade, I think, or 6th grade maybe, a bottle, a 2-liter bottle study of Marie Curie, and you make a doll out of the bottle, or you make a representation of the person. And I just I learned so much, and I retained so much from that about Marie Curie, just by helping her and going through it with her. It's pretty interesting. We still have the bottle.
That's cute. You should bring the bottle on as a visual aid. It sounds great.
Yeah, somewhere. It's on top of the furnace.
The importance of manipulatives.
Yeah, we talked about that.
Things, right?
I know.
So, okay, so just to catch you up, Doug was kind of saying how can we find the talent? So as a specific one, sorry, I was getting email from my neighbors. How do you find the talent? Within IPNI, do you have like a public-facing hire an IPNist webpage that Doug could go on and say, I'm looking for a specific IPNatic aspect of IPNI, and Charlotte, I know, is really busy making it all together, or does he have to go through you? Basically, that's the
The
question.
hypnotic.
Yes.
You mean to talk about IPNI or to
No,
publish something or?
to hire someone to bring them into his team and say, hey, I need to use your skills, either hire them or work trade with them. How can he tap into your network and connect your network with his network in a way that makes a bigger, better network? I think.
Charlotte, you represent sort of a mimetic center of gravity in my mind for the meme of publishing and e-publishing and self-publishing, right? Like that space. I just have an association in my mind that you're the keeper of that. You have a repository between open source publishing and between IPNI and whatever. There are a lot of people that know a lot of pieces of that puzzle and have
Yeah,
a lot of
and
experience.
I don't know all, and I don't know as much as some, and I know a lot more than others, and all permutations of that. But there are people that I could recommend within IPNI.
But what would the platform or tool or resource be that you could plug in and populate with the IPNI members' skill sets and profiles and affinities in terms of what kind of help through what medium at what level, etc.
For you or for just for them?
Well, I mean, conceptually, this applies to. I mean, I'm using IPNI as a specific, and I'm headed toward that need with a vengeance in the context of the book expression of the values manifesto. Right, we're going to get that book done, and I'm going to need to figure out how to put it out there, and so. But I mean, in principle, anytime you have a group of people that come together around a particular point of focus or commonality that pulled them in, you're creating this resource, this level of expertise, commonality of interest, and shared experience. And the 2.0 industrial model is knowledge management, which sucks and never really works and has never been able to even define itself, much less successfully manifest in the world. But there's another vision of it, which is that if there was a platform, it's almost a expertise, interest in helping and engaging and becoming involved reference base.
Well, there's many things that you're saying that are needs within IPNI that are needed, like a membership's skills survey, and I think a lot of members would love to offer their skills for hire or for collaboration with someone. Let me just see where, we have a number of platforms, the most active of which is Facebook. We have a member group. So this is the member group. It's got 83 members now. It had 73 last week. But we have 202 members officially. It always goes up after the fall book events. But and then on this page, just yesterday, I posted this. We have a new contact, the regional buyer at the paper store, which is, I don't know if it's national or just Northeast, but they're particularly interested in specialty books like Denise Doherty Price's Freedom Trail pop-up book, children's picture book, and women's titles like Lose the Cape, which is one of our members' books. And it would be great to have a member who could put together a sales sheet of appropriate IPNI titles. Any volunteers? And then after that, this is who's seen it, who's been on the page to look at it, 12 people. Denise uh, Denise, she replied and she said, thanks. How might I contact this interested party? Completely missing my collaborative, point of, it would be great to have a member who could put together a sales sheet of appropriate IPNI titles. And she says, so this is where people are at. I want to sell my book.
Right.
And so my reply, we wanted to present an IPNI package which would include yours. Would you be interested in helping put that together? It would be like one of our book show inserts for the catalog. I'll post a file here as an example. Then I went up and I posted a file as an example. And that's what, that is a little insert for our catalog. So that's where, I did get some response, and if I beat the bushes enough, I will get somebody to do this, I'm sure. But we need to have a system to have, we need to have other board members in charge of things like this, member engagement or, whatever. So go ahead.
But what you're highlighting, when I sort of look at that whole transactional flow and Facebook as the medium, it's a signaling confusion, right?
Mm-hmm. It sure is.
So IPNI, your voice of IPNI, you're reaching out. Would somebody like to volunteer to pull together the IPNI releases in response to this paper, whatever this company has expressed interest in, and somebody saw it as an opportunity to connect to, I guess, the paper company or some agenda with the paper company.
So I'm their agent, so I
right,
just
right,
give
exactly.
them information, and nothing else collaborative gets done.
Right,
So,
but there are multiple facets around the signaling in an industrial, 2.0 one-dimensional context. There's no facets. It's buying and selling. Okay, so everybody is like trained to respond to everything in terms of whether they're buying something or whether they're selling something. So there's another version. There's a version which says, I'm not neither buyer nor seller B. I'm looking for some help and assistance. And if it's me procuring help and assistance without me contributing help and assistance in some reciprocal way, then presumably I'm willing to pay for it or make some commitment to pay in the future in the event that whatever. There may be a barter dynamic because I have a skill set that somebody else who can help me with my problem, but also could make use of my lawyering skills to help them with one of theirs, like setting up a company or getting organized, whatever. That a platform that opens up all of the dimensionality of that in terms of value, ability to contribute, skill set, expertise, credentials, blah blah blah. That I think maybe we could construct a facilitative platform that would do it better.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a really much better way to do it. I'm just, first of all, going where the people are, and I'm not asking them to adopt any new technology.
Right.
And second, I'm getting their attention with something that they're deeply attracted to, which is selling books. Then I'm piggybacking the volunteer collaboration thing on it. Just my my previous experience. There's it's hard to do otherwise. Get attention without something familiar, and maybe that's devious. I don't know, but.
So,
No.
Can I jump in? I got a couple things to say, which is so I think this is definitely a bigger issue than just the IPNI. I think that maybe it's a problem that we could solve within the Peeragogy Project. And in fact, I think it may be a problem that we're going to have to solve in order to create our Peeragogy accelerator and have that be at a scale that's larger than just 5 or 6 or maybe 10 people talking about stuff once a week, which is fine if we continue on that level. But I think that if we want to have it be a bigger thing, like the IPNI people becoming available to the Values Manifesto people. I don't know what the book is that Lisa's working on, but it's about some topic. So that topic, becoming available to these people, and then they could hire Lisa or one of the people who work with. They could, hire Karen for a number of different skills she has, or hire me in theory. Although I may be too busy, and I would just say, here's someone in my network. So I think
I agree. Yeah, a good tool to use for that would be. We've talked about in IPNI. We've talked about having, surveying the membership and putting up a spreadsheet. But it's kind of like, who's going to hang the bell on the cat?
Well, so as Doug has said before, I don't know if that's the spreadsheet may or may not be the right, and a survey may or may not be the right method, although it's probably one that could.
Well, that data set is one piece of the puzzle. The other piece of the puzzle is the sort of automated search engine correlation filter brokerage layer that is connecting dots. So if I have certain skill sets and I put them into that spreadsheet, they're going to bubble up in response to certain searches where somebody is looking for help. And a mechanism that has that ping me, ring an alarm, and go, this person is looking for XYZ, which you're in the business of providing. And this is who they are, and this is what they're doing, and this is what they have to offer, and whatever. And so it's placing the priority and emphasis, instead of it being the job board, here's a job listing, apply, instead of it being a buy-sell collective of, for posting skill sets and bidding on projects, which is just commerce, it was a social engine for connecting people contextually, in the midst of projects generating and driving needs that other people could meet, and vice versa. But it's the social plus the context that is the added dimension.
The social,
if that makes sense. It's the social plus profile, skill set, abilities, talents, expertise, right? Contextualized with a third dimension, which is project or need, right? And it's creating a platform that facilitates those connections and rings bells, literally generates an alarm, a message to the person that had just popped up on somebody's radar. If I popped up on Joe's radar because he's looking for a lawyer, right? And it would ping me and say, Joe just got you as a response. Right, and that ping would include, and this is Joe, and he's got this thing called Planet Math, and he's got, his need is for this, that, and whatever, and his skill set is he's a professor, and he's in mathematics, and he's in this, and he's that, he's got a PhD and whatever, and so it literally is facilitating social knowing.
Yeah. So it's kind of like, in a way, it'd be like an automatic butt sniffer if we were dogs.
Yes! I sort of hate the analogy, but it's perfect. I hate the analogy, but it's perfect. It's absolutely perfect.
So it's kind of like...
Well, we've been eating our own dog food for years.
Yeah.
How far is this metaphoric sinkhole going to go?
But it does sound...
We'll paw around for
no doubt we could find out a better way to sell it seems incredibly useful. I mean, if I was a dog, I'd be like, and this was robotics, I'd be like, yeah, no kidding.
Yeah.
I want that.
But that's exactly...
They need all the time to go roll around in, debris and waste.
Now, I mean, are there analogs? Obviously the social dating sites, I think, probably come close to this, except everybody lies, so it's a corrupt data set.
Well, this time trade circle was really an interesting thing that I went to last week. and they have you go to an orientation first before you join, and sort of like it's a sort of a vetting thing. I mean, you don't have to, I think, but it helps with your leveraging yourself into these flow. And it's been going on for about 10 years. There's places like this all over the country. And at one point I had, or we had talked about it in Peeragogy, I think, time bank stuff.
Yeah.
Maybe there's some lessons to be learned from.
Lisa, could you talk about what Upwork is? Are you familiar with them?
Yeah, a little bit. I'm a little new to it, but basically you can find freelancers with a lot of different skills, from web software development, game development, to logo design, branding, to production of a bunch of stuff. When it comes to books, you can find editors and things like that. And what you do is you go in, you explain what you're looking for, skills-wise, and then you kind of explain the project, and it'll kind of match things up based on the skills that you're looking for. And each person who's a freelancer, you'll see like a bio, and a lot of times they have a ranking or a rating from people who've used their work before. You'll match up with some people. Will see your posting, and they may not be an exact match, but they still may put in like an offer and try to sell themselves, like their skills and what they've done. But it's pretty good. It's a pretty good matching system, and they have ways of tracking the contract. So if, for example, you're developing something that has multiple stages, you can set it up so that this is stage 1 when we agree on this. Stage 2 is when this is done. Stage 3 is when this is done. Stage 4 is when this is done.
So they do transaction facilitation built into the platform.
Yeah, it's actually included as part of the whole thing. So,
Gotcha.
So they've got the whole, not only matching people up, but you can also, and you can read their bios and ask them questions and stuff like that before you, quote, hire somebody. And so it's a pretty wide range of skills and stuff like that too.
Yeah. So I think this sounds like it would be, say, 50% of the solution, and in fact, it sounds like it could solve Doug's problem in a pinch. But if we wanted to go further than this, I think we want to do like the other side of it as well.
What's next gen beyond this in our from a 3.0 frame of reference? And it's
I think when you go through like me or IPNI, you get I think like my experience with things like Upwork and Elance and Fiverr is that it's like 50% success rate. Maybe Upwork is much better. I haven't tried it extensively, but you get a personal connection, maybe more nuanced. And there's some thumping.
I just muted Karen. She was typing. Sorry, Karen.
Okay. So then, yeah, let's see. I was going to go to the membership directory. This is something we could improve, but I always have IPNI directory. You can view details, publisher. It doesn't really say. It's not the same as telling people what they offer. And a lot of our members are solo publishers, but West Cornwall is a publisher. And so, yeah.
So let me say another thing, which was another quick comment. I think I might have put it into the chat as a throwaway thing, but I think this is a broader issue with like mapping ecosystems. So Doug, you used the ecosystem metaphor, and this would be speaking also to Karen and those who do something with real ecosystems. How does it really work? And I think it's like, what is the difference between building the map of the ecosystem and the existence and health of the ecosystem itself? Those are probably different things, and the kind of Korzybski map is not the territory meme, because I also know a couple memes, that's one of them. Uh, so the question is like, I've tried this with Planet Math, for example. I built a web page which is no longer online called Mapping the Mathematics Meta Commons, and I said, who are all the different organizations who do things a bit like us, who might be interested in what we're doing? And I just built this little wiki page. It didn't go anywhere. I think we could have reached out to some of them, but we didn't, and now that
Well,
wiki is offline. So
that's creating a vital version of that. I mean, that's the right idea, but I think most people stop with aggregating the list because we're 2.0 data information, reference information prejudiced. But
So can you give us?
the truth of the matter is that what's required is doing the social work of reaching out and connecting with all of those folks, introducing yourself, explaining and contextualizing how you think you may be of value to them and they may be of value to you, and how you work and play together and potentially fit together. And it doesn't require any marriages or commitments or money or commerce or anything initially, but it's, if you're interested in playing with us, we would like to invoke and reference you in the context of our efforts as we go out into the world. If we succeed in catalyzing a 500,000 employee global organization to drink our Kool-Aid and to trigger a chaotic internal chemical reaction, there's going to be a lot of chaos, a lot of confusion and challenge, and what you have to offer could play a meaningful and significant contributing role to helping them sort that out. And we'd like to have you in the bowl of offerings that we say to them. Here are an array of people and organizations and providers that have insight into various pieces of this puzzle. The piece of the puzzle you're suffering from is F, and these people are F specialists, and they can help you come in and figure F out.
So you're talking about building something like an Upwork?
Well, yeah. I mean, what we're doing, we're starting from the ground up, but it started with a graphic. It started with creating sort of a graphic magic quadrant of all of these logos, and identifying, the individuals, the organizations, the books, the whatever that contributed particular mimetic pieces of the transformation puzzle. We're now gathering their sort of source statement of what they are and who they are, what they represent, and we're generating our own editorial on that through our lens, which is values transformation. And our next step is to have, if you hover over the logo, it's going to open up a square and give you an ability to click through and dig deeper into them on our site. And then at that point, if you want to, you can go back and look at somebody else in our matrix, or you can go out to their site. We'll refer them over there. Now, we're going to reach out and establish relationships and get permission and agreement from each one of them. And you know what the key differentiator is in our orientation around all of this is that in the 2.0 world and industrial paradigm, this wouldn't be an ecosystem matrix. This would be a competitive market analysis where we're competing with them for the corporate dollar. We want them to buy our Kool-Aid rather than their Kool-Aid. And everybody's in a frothy red ocean killing each other. And our approach and our vision of this as an ecosystem is, guys, we're not competitors. We do different things. We provide different pieces of the puzzle. And we can be good for each other and good for clients mutually by connecting and just formulating and working cooperatively and together in support of each other. And so that's a non-competitive, commons-oriented, ecosystemic perspective and view that's very different, right?
That's what exactly almost how I phrased at the conference when I phrased my my collaboration as a new competition discussion to the people who were attending. I said, look, if I go into a bookstore and somebody's asking me if IPNI has a book on transgender experience, I'm not going to just shut up because I don't want them to buy another person's book. It's, I will refer them to my friend who wrote a book about her transgender experience. And it's, we're not really competing with each other except on a very obscure level for the total dollar book expenditure by people, and really not even that.
Not even that, because the
Not
truth
even relate.
is that
Relate, yeah.
Yeah, a partner of mine who had absolutely horrible values, but had a million amazing lines, had a saying that every garbage can has its lid. That was his philosophy about relationships, by the way, and which gives you insight into him as a person. But and we're no longer partners, still friends, but no longer partners. But the truth of the matter is that for every book, there is a reader for that book and for that author. There's a a universe of mapping of that and generation of pull and finding each other.
It's a
And
consumable too. You read something and then you need more.
yeah, and that's the dynamic of being generative of value, not in a competitive frame.
Mm-hmm.
And competition is not required for everybody to thrive.
The only thing is that I think people have a limited bandwidth. So if they go into a bookstore and someone asks them about the transgender experience books, they may not have the oomph or decide not to expend the oomph to tell them about the one they know. They may not think they know enough about it. There needs to be something in it for me, sort of tradition, either a tradition, something that's gone before. Like I know that if I do this, Grace is going to promote my stuff.
I mean, I think that's getting to what I'm talking about in terms of this idea of expanded set of variables, right?
Right.
Where if people are working in supporting cooperation and facilitation of each other in a non-competitive frame of value provision and generation, then somebody comes to me looking for a book about independent publishing.
Mm-hmm.
Or how to do independent publishing or whatever, and they're headed your way. Like, I'm going to do that because in my universe, you're the reference source and base for that meme, and Joe is the reference source and base for, education meets math online meets whatever, the array of things that he stands for. And so, creating the tools and the means and the resources to I mean, Joe, I hate the metaphor, but the sniffing function to facilitate the richness of the sniff in terms of how much you get for your click and your effort in the contextual. The key is connecting that search to the contextual need you're experiencing in that moment. Why did I end up with this person at this time in the context of what's currently driving my attention and curiosity?
Yeah.
Something that I liked about the time trade circle was that they value an hour equally over all disciplines. So you could do some attorney work for an hour, you get, an hour of pet sitting. And
yeah,
I mean, I love that. I just yes, this really validates the types of work that is, less valued monetarily in our society.
So that is an interesting feature there. So what I was going to say is that as a practical exercise, we could try everyone. I think it would be hard to do 10. So let's try for 10 things like the one that Charlotte said. Like 10 people, 10 projects, 10 things we bet the other person hasn't hasn't found, and try to aggregate those things, which would give us, if we could all complete it, it would be 50 things. So Doug has a bit of a head start because he's working on this already. But if we said, hey, for this, talk to this person, or this thing, for this, talk to that other person, then we'd have 50. I mean, I think the other thing I want to say is in a 1.0 world, even before the 2.0 world, it would have been like a Rolodex, and everyone would have their Rolodex. And when would you say, call someone? Here's someone that I can look up in the Rolodex. You need to call so and so. Sometimes that would happen. But I wonder what we could do that's a bit more if we went through the exercise and said, hey, in this kind of space, these are the people who I think is worth calling, or I don't actually know this person, but I'd like to get to know them. So to flesh out my list of 10, because that was hard, I added that person on the list.
Well, we do have those 1,000 members on our Peeragogy in Action, and it might be a good way to engage them if they think they're going to be, part of something.
Yeah.
Or we're going to be generative of something for them.
Yes, right, exactly.
It's sort of an enablement step.
Right, and it's a step that a lot of people don't have the expertise or oomph to do,
Yeah. Yeah, that would be an interesting way to, if we could engage even, if we could engage even what, 10% of that, is that so 100 people?
Mm-hmm.
That would be a pretty big resource base to trigger
people,
to trigger or catalyze.
Times 10, 100 people again times 10, we back to 1,000 items in our database, and deduping that, we'd get 800 different people who might be worth talking to about something, which is
1,140.
It's way better and more useful than the current G Plus thing, which has 1,000 people who don't ever say anything. So if we could trick them into doing this, it's a real Tom Sawyer moment for us, I think, to upgrade our current 1,000 who actually do something.
Right. Just to kind of distill out the active ones.
And that sort of maps to our vision around the values, what we're doing with the Values Manifesto. The Values Manifesto doesn't involve selling a company something. It's actually selling a company on the idea of a catalytic process, that what they're buying is us as catalysts. Everything else is provided by them internally in terms of their people, their IT, their enterprise systems. It all is derived from them, the goods, the substantive stuff. Our job is to catalyze their organization. We're looking to create a reaction. And we're looking to do it from the bottom of the organization to the top, laterally, everybody, no person left unturned. And this is the same kind of thing. Can we come up with a catalytic path for the reference base of Peeragogy followers and people that have touched this and at one point or another, for one reason or another, have maintained their name on the rolls? And can we catalyze them into an action engagement that generates, pull, and provides a path toward creating something with a mutuality of value for the project and for them. Maybe we could launch a resource base that's unprecedented, that's different.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think using the the collaboration thing is in the concept of time trade, where you don't just hire somebody for $350 an hour.
Do you have a URL for time trade, by the way?
Yeah, I had it up here. Timetradecircle.org.
I'm sort of curious.
And there are probably some in your area. They do also the different time bank organizations are affiliated, so you can trade hours to someone in California if you.
Gotcha.
They're regional, but they're affiliated.
I wonder what the blockchain version of this thing would be, if there is.
Well, add blockchain. What's the initiative that's looking to actually do that, not just with virtual currency, but with contracts?
Ethereum.
Ethereum, yeah. The Ethereum and blockchain add-ins to this kind of thing, and now you're cooking. You're no longer in the the financial
Is this
black
it?
black hole of fiat currency and banks and all of that stuff.
Yeah. Ethereum
Oh,
one. So that's gonna. It still remains hard for me to wrap around. How do you connect? I know you can connect Ethereum to devices. So I watched a great talk about that, which is no longer online, but there's a LinkedIn post. I can find that in my email. Put it in here. But I don't really understand how to connect it to what people do. So
There, you know what it does? What it does is it
here's
hardens up the transactional relationship, the contractual relationship in terms, and it also enables you to tie in sort of deliverables and benchmarks and tangible and intangible elements in the productive process, whatever it is that's being done. So certain actions happen and certain deliverables happen, and it triggers an exchange, or it triggers another event, or it triggers a payment, or it triggers whatever. And all of that is hard coded. It's not it's not subject to deviation or change. So there's a kind of security in that.
right. Yeah, so
Right?
for example, like let's just say as a simple example, you wanted to hire someone to mow your lawn on this timeshare, you could do a kind of a contactless handshake. So they show up, they contactlessly shake hands with your phone or something. They clock in at the start of the hour and they clock out at the end of the hour. They say, "See, you watch me mow the lawn. The lawn is. You wouldn't have let me clock out if I hadn't mowed the lawn. So now we know for sure that you agree your lawn was mowed, which means whatever I get one of these hour bucks and you owe it or however the
E-
transaction works."
exactly. And the transaction execution becomes substantially automated. So all the human beings in the transaction or deal are responsible for is their delivery, their productive at work.
Right.
And that's a big deal. I mean, conceptually, is getting to the operability of that, the ease of use and implementation ease of use. Um, I've always said that blockchain is the death of the financial services and global banking and fiat currency world. The minute it is as easy to use as fiat currency, and it's approaching that. More and more vendors are accepting blockchain currencies, and more you're seeing more and more affordances where there's a plastic credit card that is Bitcoin or that is
yeah,
whatever.
you see it. You
The,
see
the
it.
minute the
Yeah.
minute the minute that is that easy and people start using it more, the banks, the Fed and the global Uber banking network that controls the world's currency and as a commodity and drives wars and famines and depressions and all of they're out of business. They're literally obsoleted overnight, and it won't be at the point of a gun, and it won't involve violence, but it can happen really fast, really fast.
So it's interesting to think about just in the peeragogy thing that we don't need to wait for some awesome AI or something to solve the problem and become super smart so we all get free online tutoring from the AI. Like this is what my dream was when I was a kid, and I've grown out of it by now. Not really. Uh, all we would have to do would be to have a clock in, clock out. You just got an hour of tutoring thing, and then after Karen does her tutoring, she wants to go to New Jersey. Well, she's got bucks to spend on her phone in New Jersey because she earned them in the Boston area, and they're equally good in New Jersey, for example,
Exactly.
or in
Exactly.
Nairobi or wherever.
And it's a direct correlation between value generation or providing a value and some mechanism for value capture, reciprocal value capture in a blockchain context that's immediate and direct. No middlemen, no third party validating the value. If there's somebody else who will then exchange that hour buck for dog grooming that I just earned with an hour of legal, we're good to go.
There's those dogs again.
Yeah, they keep coming back. They're probably the ones running it. Well, they had the Dogecoin, right? So that's another
Yeah, that's another one.
Dogecoin. Dogecoin. Charlotte.
We should do a session on blockchain.
Well,
Am I
if we could get a special guest
Yeah.
to explain it to us, maybe the Dogecoin people would. Although I think that they're not really the best one. But there you go. Okay, it's 12 past the hour. Even though we started late, I think we've been at it for a full hour. We're all our minds have been completely fried. It's time for us to go replenish that. However we see fit. I'm going to go meet my friends at the.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm just like I'm getting this book out this week, and I didn't have time to, or I didn't take the time to let y'all know about that.
It's okay. There's the whole metaphor with open space technology about butterflies, and I can't remember what the opposite of a butterfly is. Beetles or something.
Slime mold.
Slime.
I watched that slime mold thing. Is fascinating.
Oh, it is.
Oh my
cool.
God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
On the getter. But yeah, there's definitely lots to think about in that phone call. So good luck. Yeah, Doug. I think one of the action items is we'd love to be in your Rolodex 3.0 as a Peeragogy project if there's room for us. So that would be a good exercise on our side. Like, what does the Peeragogy project have to offer to Doug and his pals? So I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Good question. Anyway, I'm doing the usual.
Copy and paste. Karen, it's so nice having Karen on to take those fabulous notes.
Yeah, thanks. We have got good notes. Where's the sent? Because I sent it around.
And Doug, if you want to talk to me separately,
We lose Charlotte?
Well, I think she was saying if you want to talk to me separately, you're going to have to do it.
I'm going to have to go find her. Charlotte, are you back?
Yeah, I keep refreshing the wrong screen. I'm trying to do something else. But if you want to talk separately about publishing, I'm happy to do that.
Oh, sure. Okay. Well, I want to let me get my ducks in a row. I really want to sort of value your time and be efficient. So I don't want to prematurely jaw on it with you and not be ready.
Right, and I've got plenty of legal things that I could trade you direct for. So.
You're on. You're
okay.
on.
Yes.
All right. Well,
okay.
So I'm going to stop it because I think the minute I stop it, we get a YouTube link. They're so fast these days. So buy their those who are listening in from Oman or Syria or places further east, Japan.
Did we get some Omanis listening in? Or?
Yes, we're going to get some Omanis from our Dogecoins. Anyway, see you later.
Yeah.
Bye.